Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this workshop for Tampa City Council to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Miranda,
Here.
Maniscalco,
Here.
Kurtak,
Here.
Young,
Here.
Vieira's absent, Carlson,
Here.
and Clendenin.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody the opportunity to be here to have this workshop as we prepare for the Charter Review Commission. The purpose of this workshop, per City Council's instructions, is for us to have a casual conversation to present ideas of the council's ideas, our group ideas, to the Charter Review Commission members for consideration and deliberation as they prepare for their work. This does not preclude each one of us individually speaking with our members of the Charter Review Commission to, offline to talk about our ideas as well. But this is so that we at least have a collaborative discussion about what we want to present as a group. How this meeting is going to go, we've conducted roll call. We will have our discussion, and then after our discussion, we will open it up for public comment for members of the public that are here. But before we do that, I'd like to take a point of privilege. I know there's a couple of people here that are appointees for the Charter Review Commission. If you're on the Charter Review Commission, would you like to come up and introduce yourself for the people that don't know who everybody is? Hi, Bill.
Hello, everyone. Bill Schifino.
And this, by the way, you can say something about yourself too if you like.
I didn't know the
Not everybody knows.
All right. I'm an attorney here in Tampa, been here practicing law for close to 40 years. And in 2018, then Senate President Negron appointed me to the Constitution Revision Commission of the state of Florida. So I had a first-hand experience, and that was about 1.5 years of work recommending changes to the Florida Constitution. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to serve on this commission. Thank you very much. And was president of the Florida Bar, served there for many years. So okay.
And just for the public's awareness and council, what we are not live streaming tonight, but what this will be is archived and it will be uploaded to YouTube for archival work. So people will be able to see this after the fact, just not live stream. Okay, very good. Next.
Hello, my name is Ashley Morrow. I'm a 5th generation Tampan. Born and raised here in Tampa, obviously, Blake High School, University of Florida, telecommunications major. I'm a professional photographer. I was a high school teacher at Armwood for a few years. I enjoy education and teaching the youth and adults. I was appointed by the Nia Young as City Councilwoman Nia Young. And I really enjoy reading and learning and sharing information. So thank you guys for having me. And I'm a Black Tampa historian as well. Thank you.
And I can't see around the corner. Is that all we have here tonight? Okay, very good.
Can I have one thing in your summary?
Sure.
Whatever we agree to tonight also does not preclude the Charter Review Commission from bringing in new ideas.
Correct.
This is just guidance or suggestions. It
This-
doesn't mean, they're not restricted to these ideas. It doesn't mean they have to listen to these ideas. These are just suggestions.
Well, and I think that exactly correct. This is going to be a living committee that is going to be able to take input from ourselves, from the public, and their own ideas that they bring to this process. But this was a way, because you don't want to necessarily have a group start off cold. You want to have ideas out there, so at least kickstart them into doing stuff. So I think that was part of this and having ability. Councilwoman Hurtak.
And I wanted to say thank you, and to add to that when Councilmember Carlson and I were on the Charter Review Commission last time, that was one of the things that there were some things for us to consider that the previous council had put together. So I think we are following that tradition. Just
Okay, good. Well, it's all new to me, so this is a new process. Okay, so several of us have communicated some of those ideas, our ideas or proposals. We have a couple of documents in front of us that contain some of those ideas and proposals. I will entertain who wants to speak first about what they're thinking of this process, and who would like to pitch things for the process. Who wants to start? Councilman Carlson, I'll nominate you.
Yeah.
I sent out 12 ideas a couple months ago, and these are just ideas that I think the way that they build documents from last time, I think those questions not as written language that could be used with the charter, just questions to discuss so they can go through them in detail. And the idea here is that they'll discuss something like this rather than the formatting of the, whether it's left justified or center justified.
So let me enter, so we make sure that we have to cover that. Also, part of this, I guess we should do, let me take 5 steps back real quick about giving us a synopsis of where we are. There are gonna be a different couple components of this. You've got the 2 parts of the charter. One of it, we have to discuss how this charter review commission is gonna deal with the legislative side there and make suggestions for legislative changes, but this is just a part of the charter that we control. The other thing is, we've requested through our former city attorney, which I'm sure Scott will pick this up as well, for our legal staff to go over for the kind of scriveners and issues and like how things are justified and some of the more grammatical and structural parts of the charter, so that to have them suggest that. What we've said is we're gonna compile all of those changes, have the charter review commission deal with those at the end. So only do the substantive stuff first, and then all of the grammatical and typographical stuff second, so they don't get bogged down in that kind of stuff in the beginning. Actually, Sam, would you come sit up here? Would you like to give everybody a synopsis of where we've done with the work so far with the charter review commission? I'm putting you on the spot. I can do it. I can do it, but I figure you've done so much heavy lifting. So that we've scheduled the first meeting of the commission, and there's been a lot of behind the scenes work happening to facilitate that. One thing that's going to go online tomorrow is we're establishing each one of the members with their own city email addresses, so that we can keep them in the sunshine. Our security division is going to be distributing that information tomorrow to the members of the Charter Review Commission. So they will have City of Tampa email addresses so they can conduct all their official business. They're all going to be parking in the corporate parking garage. Sam is going to distribute that information to them tomorrow as well, so they have the codes to get into the garage. So they have free parking. What else do I need to fill in? Where are we at with the?
Well, I have a question about
Yeah.
that. I mean, if they aren't here, why can't they just use our parking?
We were gonna leave that up to each individual.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, you're obviously, as
Use my
always,
space if you.
so as always, you're always, you
Okay.
can do that. But if you do let them, make sure that their license plate is registered.
Correct, yeah.
And that the security guard understands that they've got permission to park there. But that's gonna be the latitude of each individual, because I didn't wanna make that decision for each individual,
Oh,
because I
that
don't know
makes
what we're
sense.
accomplishing.
Yeah.
Oh, the webpage is going on, we have a webpage, we're making last minute changes to it. So there'll be the review, commission will have its own dedicated webpage, which the agendas we published on, meeting notifications, which is fairly basic, but at least it's a dedicated webpage. As per the rules of they're going to have their own chair. The facilitator will lead off the committee meetings initially until the chair is elected. And then once that chair will do the parliamentarian type of work for the committee. So if there's motions that need to be made and those types of things, they'll gavel in, gavel out, make motions. But the facilitator will generally run the meeting if it's not parliamentarian. That would be the facilitator's responsibility. What else am I missing?
The clerk.
The clerk is gonna be Camara.
Corinthia.
Corinthia, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
Corinthia.
right. I told him the boss.
Oh, Corinthia was ours.
I love working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, too.
And of course, we have our own attorney, we have our own facilitator. And anything else on this?
I'll say one more thing about the thought process.
Mhm.
So we're gonna discuss ideas today, and then we'll give them to them as suggestions, if any. But the Charter Review Commission will deliberate, they will at the end come to consensus on what the change will be. They will give it back to City Council, and then City Council can say yes or no.
Correct.
And then if whatever we say yes to goes to the mayor, if the mayor vetoes it, then it comes back to us unless we've already had 5 votes. And then it has to go on the ballot, and so ultimately the voters decide what's approved or not.
That is correct.
Yeah,
So
so
everybody follow that?
The vote
Process.
the point is ultimately the voters decide what is
Yeah.
gonna be approved, not
Yeah.
us.
And again, and so the commission brings back the recommendations. Council has a vote, mayor has a vote, council can override with 5, whatever comes out of that process goes to the ballot. So none of us are decision makers, the voters are the decision makers, correct? Okay. Okay. Oh, 15 minutes, during the review commission, they'll have 15 minutes for our discussion of public comment. They're all they're aware of that, facilitators aware of that. From chair, we already covered. And public comment can be submitted to the website for archival purposes. Okay, I think we're good now. Okay. Sorry, Bill, for interrupting.
So, I know everybody wants to get out here in decent time. I have 12 things. I can go through each one of them in detail, or at least I can read them. We can do a quick straw vote up or down on each one, or we can do up or down on the whole thing. What do you want to do?
I think we should go read through them. I think-
Yeah, I mean.
You want to go up or down on each one? Or-
Well, I think if we're gonna have a consensus that these are things we're gonna forward as a group, it doesn't preclude you from forwarding these individually, but if these are things we're gonna have a consensus that we're gonna forward as a group, I think it should be.
Should I read one and then say the
Yeah.
discussion and then we vote, kind of straw vote up or down?
I agree.
Can we go to two and do the same thing?
Sure.
I agree.
So number one says, is there a better way to define the role and powers of the city attorney's office?
I found this to be vague, but I'm not opposed to the question, but I found it to be very vague. Councilwoman Herzog.
So, my appointee couldn't be here tonight, but we got together for 3 hours of coffee over the weekend. And this was one of the things that, my appointee is, Bobby Creighton. And he has already done a lot of research on city attorneys throughout different communities. And that was one of his, things that he found that it continues to be, regardless of the community, an issue. So I think these types of questions, although they're broad, is kind of where we are right now, where every community has to decide for themselves, every council, every administration in every city has to decide how this is going to work. And what he found is that there wasn't one like solid answer that a lot of people used, and that most cities grapple with this same question.
So the first 6 of mine are all about the
Yeah,
city attorney's office,
agreed,
because
and
I think that's the most
I-
important issue we have to address. It's also why I picked a former Florida bar president as my appointee, because I wanted him to look at it from a legal point of view.
And I tend to agree. I think anything that discusses the city attorney, the powers, the roles, the conflict of interest, I think those are issues that we grappled with in the first one that really haven't been solved, but were helped because of the city attorney. Andrea really helped with that, but that's a person, not a role.
So I think the question here, is there anybody that objects to this? I mean, it's broad enough. Is there anybody here that objects to this being submitted?
1 through 7 are all city council attorney, and then we should forward those ideas to the review commission.
Anybody object to?
Well-
Does anybody object to that?
Could you simply just read them for
Yeah,
the
yeah, read it for the
record?
public too. The public doesn't have copies.
Second, again, these are just questions for them to discuss. Should we clarify in the charter that the city attorney is not the judicial branch of the city, and that the city attorney simply advises our clients? It kind of says that, but there have been some decisions in the past that sounded like a Supreme Court ruling. And so this just helps them to go through the discussion about what that role is.
Okay.
Third is, since the charter currently defines the mayor and city council as 2 of the clients of the city attorney, should the city council have more powers over the city attorney once the city council has approved the appointment? The point is that, I think you had said in another meeting you were gonna recommend that we fire the city attorney, but the point here is that, there are a lot of ways, the law, depending on who your client, not that it's ethical or unethical, it's just that you have different ways of looking at it. And so if the city council, if there's a way the city council has more input, then they would know who the client is.
Okay.
Per Florida bar rules, that's not proper English, they provide guidance on how attorneys should handle 2 clients who are in conflict. Should the city attorney follow some or all of those rules? The point is that if the mayor and city council don't agree, you remember in the last administration, Julie Mandela, city attorney, brought in Gwen Young, former Florida bar president, to try to end a dispute between city council and the mayor's office. So there should be a formal process. The city attorney should not have to create a process. The point is there should be a process, but what should it be? And if in a typical case of an attorney's representing you and you sue somebody and that person is also a client of that attorney recuse themselves from both sides. So how do we deal with a situation like that?
Yeah, I've always had a question about that, because if we ever got to a point, I think we've kind of pushed on these points a couple times, when there's a wall between what council and the administration believes, we don't really have a recourse. Like, we can't sue the administration for enforcement. We don't have that mechanism, really. We don't have the resources, I guess, what they do.
We can't hire an attorney through Marty, we have to go to the city attorney reports to the mayor, so.
Yeah. Okay. Councilwoman Herzog.
I just wanted to, say that we've had several new appointees come in. If we wanted to have a moment to, allow them to introduce themselves.
Okay, well, let's finish this first 7 and then
Okay.
we'll do that.
Okay.
We have
Yeah.
2 more things and we'll use this.
Oh, no, we have,
So number 5
Yeah.
is similar to the last one, but a little bit more detailed. Since the charter defines several clients for the city attorney, should the city attorney be prohibited from investigating one client at the order of another and follow Florida bar rules?
that's
So-
rather specific, but yes.
We know what that is.
Yeah.
So, but there's a question about who the client is. So is the client, are you individually a client as a city council member or the city council as a whole? Either way, I read the charter, it says the city council as a whole. And then number 6 is, should the mayor have an attorney that represents the mayor's interests, just as the city council has an attorney? I think it's Miami that has an attorney for the mayor's office that would deal with the conflict. We have had some situations where an attorney is representing a part of the city, but also representing the city, and you all seen, I've asked to have the city attorney come in to represent the city and have the other attorney represent the department.
Yeah, this seems like growing pains. The city's becoming bigger and so our issues are becoming bigger. That seems to
Yeah.
be
And we're unique in,
Small city
we're
versus
unique
big
in
city.
Florida because we're trying to be proactive addressing some of this stuff. 7, should the city council attorney be allowed to hire additional staff and outside attorneys subject to budget approval of city council? That's back to the point you made earlier, which is, if we have investigative authority, but we can't hire anybody to do the investigation, and the investigation ultimately be under the city attorney who reports to the mayor.
I'm just here listening. What I'm looking at, regardless of 1 through 8 or 9, whatever they are, we're trying to change the government to not have a strong mayor form of government. Let's be sincere, up front, I don't hide from nothing. If all this goes effect, the mayor will be a puppet to the council in some way or another. And I tell you directly to all of you, I ain't afraid to say what I think. So that's what you wanna do, count me out.
That's not at all what these questions are.
Well, when you read this and you digest it, all of it, that's what it points to me as a criminologist. I'm not smart, I'm not stupid, I'm just a human being.
It doesn't change any of the powers of
I understand.
the mayor under the
But
charter.
when you want the right to fire somebody with 5 votes,
No, we're gonna be out there.
We're not there yet, we're still.
I know, but I said 1 through 9.
Do you want me to keep going, or you want to introduce the people?
Leo, this is-
Finish
this is-
7.
So 7, I did 7, I think. 8 is, should there be a charter provision to set salaries for city council and the mayor so that city council members and mayors in the future will not need to calculate and approve their own salaries?
If we, in a straw poll, say yes to this, don't we have a workshop item coming up to even
Yeah,
discuss it? Just
in
pull it off.
January,
I'll make a motion to
but
take
it
off.
doesn't mean that we could, that if, I mean, I agree with you, but I know that we've kicked this can down the road so many times that,
This has got to be dealt with before the next one.
yeah, so I think that whoever decides it, I think even if we decide it as a council, the charter, it doesn't hurt for them to talk about it, they may decide that it's a council decision.
Yeah.
But I still would like to hear their opinion.
Number 9 is similar to U.S. constitutional provisions for president, should a mayor be limited to 2 4-year terms. This is something we addressed in 2016. And we also tried to address it when I was on council, and there was political opposition both times. But we did pass, a few years ago, we passed term limits for council.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very few mayors have served more than 2 terms. It's like Greco and Hickson. I mean, in the last 100 years, and maybe one more before. In the 30s, but it's very difficult. I don't know.
And just before anybody starts making any allegations too, I talked to Marty, and there's no way with the election at the same time as the next election for council and mayor, there's no way
Yeah.
it could apply to the next, whoever the next mayor is, it would apply to the one after that.
Yeah. No, it's just three terms has been historically tricky, you know, so.
Councilman Brown?
Just to listen to the comparison of what we're doing. If some city attorney, mayor, whoever the mayor comes in, just say we 4 or 5, 8, 4 years or 8 years, they usually talk to the attorney, bring their own attorney that they have confidence in. That's how I've seen it in the past to some degree. But yet the council attorney's there forever. So if you want to set one standard, you gotta set the standard for both the administration and the council.
Well, that'd be up to we don't have to keep the same.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean,
We could change council attorneys tomorrow, so did the mayor, you know, so.
But they, But on the other side of that, we
Hear that,
we
Marty?
can still have the same city
I know, I'm not
attorney.
saying that
We
we
can
can
still
change
have
it,
the
we
same
can go.
city attorney for the last 40 years, we just haven't. But that's not, I don't think that's I mean,
The other thing is that, we're not allowed to talk to each other outside of meetings. The mayor and her people can lobby all of us individually, so it's, or whoever the mayor is, so they still have a lot of power. Number 10, this is a lot more complicated one, but, since the mayor in his, her, role as mayor does not have a voting conflict, how should the mayor handle and disclose conflicts of interest? I've spent a lot of time talking to ethics attorneys, there's not a lot of case law regarding this. And if the public would like there to be some mechanism for a mayor to disclose conflicts of interest and to recuse themselves. And there are government agencies where, to avoid a conflict, executive directors or CEOs of government agencies have stepped aside from a process where staff was involved and the CEO was not involved. And there must be some way that we can talk to the ethics commissioner, look at the Florida bar, and figure out how can it really it doesn't punish a mayor, it protects them, because if somebody finds a conflict of interest that has not been disclosed, that's where the problem comes.
Yeah. Sir?
Councilman Maniscalco.
So I have to fill out a Tampa Theater Museum of Art and a family member, a vendor, any connection. I mean, I think, and that's a board position. It's a good point as a mayor. You don't know if hiring family members or somebody's connected financially or whatever. And like you mentioned, the mayor can lobby or their people can lobby city council members for a specific contract or project. And is there a financial gain from somebody connected?
There's nothing in the Florida ethics that.
You said it's very big.
It's a prohibited conflict. That's the problem. There's no guidance from the advice I've gotten on it. The mayor doesn't have a voting conflict. And so the idea would be maybe to talk to Florida Bar and the Ethics Commission about what a narrow path. Again, it's not gonna apply to this administration.
Well, again, this is just supporting this for discussion.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to discuss it and have that answer, asked and answered.
Yeah, and it hopefully would protect somebody in the future, so that they wouldn't get frivolous complaints.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's pretty fair.
The mayor sitting on, the Aviation Authority Board, the Port Board, DIA Board, they do have voting conflicts, that there is a mechanism there, but not sitting as mayor because they don't vote as mayor.
Yeah.
but they do have the ability to override or to veto things, so kind of do.
So right now.
I think I agree.
Right now, if it's a prohibited conflict, the only remedy is if somebody finds a conflict, they go through a long process to accuse the mayor of having a conflict, and then the remedy is to end that situation, end a relationship, end a job situation, or they have to resign. That's the only remedy. There's no remedy to separate yourself from the process. And I think there should be a transparent way of doing that.
Okay, that's fair.
Again, they would have to discuss. Number 11, should a process be created to arbitrate settle disputes between the mayor and city council, since there's no judicial branch? At the federal level, if there's disputes between Congress and the president,
This boils into that question I asked.
it could go to the Supreme Court. But, in 2018, there was a 2-paragraph memo that said, by the then city attorney, that said, my memo supersedes all ordinances, which the charter doesn't allow, and that, from this point forward, the city attorney must not get approval from city council for settlement agreements. And Andrea, when we went through that a few years ago, Andrea agreed with us, and we got rid of it because there was an existing ordinance that was on the books, and there's no mechanism for a city attorney to overdo that. So the point here is, what do we do in a dispute? Julie Mandel went to Gwen Young, but that's not a provision in the charter. She had to make up that process. So ideally, we would not have to go to court to settle a dispute. If we had an arbitration process, this is what companies do to settle disputes. For example, we would go before 3 arbitrators, and we could define what that would be, and then settle. It would be a legal dispute, not a political dispute.
Yeah, also, with the creation of boards like the Citizens Review Board.
That was the controversy.
Yeah.
And that's where, who had the authority to create a board and who could appoint, and it was back, and it got settled, whatever, a deal was reached, but yeah, there was no clarity. It was city council attorney versus city attorney, and it got real heated, but again, if the Charter Review Commission can discuss this, to create a mechanism so it doesn't happen again.
So there's no ambiguity.
Exactly, so it's clear, you go to a mediator, you go to something else, another individual that can clarify, so that's fine.
The next, 12, the last one is, should city council have the power to fire department heads, and so under what conditions? I think if we do that, it should be limited to egregious things, but, if we've had many situations.
Department heads or head?
Heads. Head.
All right, so not the chief, but below the chief?
I mean, we can define it however we want.
Because on this other, on the next page, for, on item 1, is the ability to remove a director level staff or above.
Yeah, so the same thing. And it
Well,
would,
department head and director are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
so
say
you're talking about
director.
level below.
I would be in support of director because they come to us for the approval,
It's a
right?
political,
Yeah.
it's a political
Yeah.
position.
You know,
Agreed.
and in this case, it should be.
These are
the
career
department.
people. These are political people, these are career people.
Okay, let's just, you wanna take out 12 and replace it with your number 1?
Yeah.
What is it now?
Strike 12.
That's director level staff. Okay, yeah, swap it out.
Well, what I actually like about, the question is should, so I actually prefer the question
So-
format. Should city council have the power to remove a director level staff or above with 5 or more, and then just leave it at that?
That's fair.
And it's
So insert should.
Yeah.
And if so,
If
under what
so-
conditions, because again, like, I want I like the idea of a question and have it be very broad, because I want our commission to debate that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And they're gonna get public input too, so.
Correct,
that'd be good,
yeah.
so. You wanna go through yours, or you gonna do?
I mean, we go through them if you want. So the number 2 is, by the way, all but 2 of these were things that had been introduced to council months ago, by the way, during our regular meetings. Number 2 would be, I guess we do the same thing, but should remove language that limits the use of investigative powers to only legislative matters.
Can you clarify that? How far do you want it to reach?
Well, I mean, it's the charter, so right now we only have the investigative powers for legislative matters, but if it was something that was non-legislative, that was,
Like what?
it could be scandalous personnel, it could be anything. I mean,
So-
should council have the ability to investigate as they see fit?
So if a private citizen complains about a code enforcement officer saying, I was harassed, I was whatever, could we investigate that? Or I was mistreated when I went to the water department and the supervisor there, I mean, how far does it reach?
Well, like I said, again, right now, the charter, you only have the power to investigate on legislative matters, period. It doesn't go beyond that, so you do not have that power. Whether you exercise that power is up to council.
Well, let the board discuss the commission discuss how broad they want to take it. Then- I don't know, I would leave it to them.
Can be something for them to discuss.
Yeah.
I think we should remove the limit. The question is
Where you
how
draw
should
the
it
line.
be defined? And I agree with, I think with Rito's leading that it shouldn't involve a charter investigation.
Yeah,
Charter
exactly.
investigations.
So would that be something that the charter commission can decide?
Yeah.
Well, and I think the question comes to be more, I think more financial than anything. I don't think it's an HR thing, I think it's a finance.
Could be. Should they remove the language that limits the use of investigative powers only in legislative matters,
Okay.
and to what limits?
Okay.
That's fair.
Should Tampa City Council be allowed to hire staff they see fit to carry out their legislative duties?
What does that mean?
Right now, well, we are only authorized to hire the staff that we have, you see currently.
Okay.
We identified a need. I mean, I actually don't support this, I don't believe it's needed, but I know in the past people have talked about having a legislative chair, you know, but we don't have the authority to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can support something like that. I don't know how far you wanna take it, like the city council get, I don't know, what's another example? Like the county commission, they have a driver, for example. You know, I wouldn't be in support of that. or that's-
I fully support that.
Absolutely not. You know, how far does it go?
Councilwoman Martin.
I think do think that it would be interested to see if they could broaden this, because one of the things that we don't tend to have time to do, you know, the addition of Ms. Pesky has been great, because we have to do less focus on financial, or, you know, dieting ourselves, when we can kind of work with her. I kind of feel the same about some of the legislative things that come in front of us. Not to be too specific, but like South Howard comes in them. You know, if we could get some folks who can do some research on legislative issues.
Well, I mean,
that to me
that's
is
all good
something-
conversation, but I mean,
Yeah.
right now we're limited, we don't have the ability.
But I know, but that's what I'm saying, is you were asking for examples, that would be my example, is to have someone, so policy is really what I'm looking for. So we have a financial person, and then we can have a policy person that could work on larger issues, or a couple of policy people that work on issues.
Councilwoman Young.
No, I was just saying, I think that's a great idea, because especially, you know, amongst all the other things that we have to do, you know, I like to be well versed in, you know, everything, and it takes time to do that research. I mean, I was a public policy intern, that's all I did, was just literally research policy, and you have to be able to provide it with that explanation.
Well, I think, you know, the pushback on that would be to say that they increase the legislative aid salaries to the point, because they're supposed to be doing that stuff, and that's why we compensate them so well.
Well,
I
but
mean,
I'm just saying, that's your pushback you're gonna
it
get.
is true, but also, I mean, in this day and age, our aides have to be everywhere we are.
Yes.
Like, you can't take a
You're
meeting.
that same.
You can't take a meeting on your own
Yeah.
anymore. It's just the society that we're in. So I think that things have changed.
Yeah.
and then, I mean, yeah.
Councilman Randy, anything that is?
Just thinking how much you're going to spend, that's all.
Councilman Carlson?
Yeah, I think we ought to limit it to, we ought to ask them to limit it to certain positions instead of open.
Sure. Yeah.
And for sure, we would have to we'd have to work with the mayor's office on the budget, but,
Isn't that council envisioning this? If the charter allows us to hire staff, it's still council has to, by majority vote,
Approve what's done.
approve what staff is hired. So it's not like it's not like we're authorizing each individual to hire whoever they want to hire. The council still has to come back and approve additional staff.
but a robust discussion by the committee would, with our input, would let it. I think we at least need a chairs aide that would go with whoever the chair is, because, everybody that does that is stressed out, maxed out all the time, except Sam. But, it's a lot of work to do both jobs, and it's a lot of hours.
You know, there is a difference though. It's not lost on me, the difference in being a citywide council person
Oh, yeah.
versus a single member district council person. I could see where a single member council person's legislative aid would be stressed out to the max. Like for you, especially in District 4. I mean, District 4 would be almost an impossible task to be able to have your legislative aid do both duties, because you guys are buried in constituency services, where the citywide people are not as, it's not as intense.
Oh.
The other thing would be,
Yeah.
the other thing would be to have like a
I don't know,
triage.
you ever see District 4, what they do?
Yes.
I get the nasty voicemail, and then I call them back, and they say, "Oh, I'm surprised you returned my call." That's our job. But,
All right, let the commission talk about it.
another idea would be like a triage person, not called that, but somebody who we could, because we get a lot of emails sent to everybody, and one aide will respond and say, okay, I responded to that person, but we know that certain kinds of requests will go to the triage person. It would be like an aide to handle
That's true.
decision requests.
Yeah, I always wonder that, because so many of those things you see, you go, did somebody respond to these?
Well, they have their own chain.
Yeah.
They have their own email chain and their own text chain, like they figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't hear any objection to having this sent back up. Okay, require a vote by council for any bonding over
Yes.
$10 million, an individual vote.
Yes.
First of all, how many bonds are given out for $10 million?
What?
No, that's part of the problem, is we authorize a project that requires a bonding. They have to have a standalone individual vote on a bond of $10 million or more. So that it actually has to come, that you are authorizing the bond, $10 million. Just because you said you're authorizing the project,
Doesn't mean anything.
you know.
But, I mean, I understand this, but that's part of the problem. It's not the bonding, it's understanding the totality at the beginning.
But knowing that's the question has to be asked and answered, that that the council has to vote on a standalone vote to bond that project.
And while I agree that that's something that's important, how do you put that in a charter? That's my question, because what happens in 10 years' time when the baseline is really 20
They
million?
have to increase it.
But that's what I'm saying, then it has to go to the voters again. So I think I don't disagree with you in terms of like why you wanna do this, but I think the overarching question is larger of when we look at projects. You know, I don't know that this is a charter commission thing, they can talk about it, but I really think this is something that we have to figure out legislatively. And I will go back to my point of, we just don't say no often enough.
Well, can we leave it in there for them to discuss?
Sure,
Maybe that's what they-
sure.
that's what the-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I worry about
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
I think we ought to change the word bonding to debt, because there are other sources of debt that you could find.
What debt does government have that's not bond?
Credit line, other kinds of things, so short-term debt, and I think
Isn't that bonded?
I don't know how long you can extend it, but, I think we approve, it seems like we approve almost everything anyway, but it would be good to do that for transparency purposes.
I think council should be required to know that whatever they vote on.
Let me ask one question, being the devil's advocate like I always am. So then you can bond anything you want for $9,999,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
That's,
I mean, that'd be realistic.
We've seen that happen too.
yeah, it's,
99,000 strategic plan.
yeah.
So maybe just be a dedicated vote for any debt, any bond, any debt.
I think it's worth the commission reviewing it.
Yeah, I think you should take the over 10 million out and just
Strike over
just
10, just
discuss.
any bonding,
Yeah, so just how do we,
or any debt.
yeah.
Require vote, council vote for any debt.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
curious to see what they do
Yeah.
with that, but.
Okay. Anybody object to that? Allow city council to initiate amendments to the Tampa City Council budget during the
Yes.
respective fiscal year.
Yes, this really should be our responsibility, if we are the ones handling the budget.
No further discussion. Allow city council to modify, contracts presented for approval rather than simply approve or deny. And that's what we have right now, is that the contracts, when they're presented for us, we do not have the ability to make modifications. This is not a vote. Councilwoman Hurtak.
So my concern about this is that generally it's not because they don't want to, but because they've already been through the process. Maybe it's a bid contract,
Right.
and so I don't know that this is actually feasible. I understand what you're trying to say, but I would say that not necessarily contracts, but even, I think you go further back to RFQs, that sort of issue. And
Those would be hands off. We wouldn't have the ability to, but if it's just a contract, it's like, Justin, do you have any thoughts on that?
What was that again? I'm sorry.
So this item is allow council to modify contracts presented for approval rather than simply approve or deny. Because right now, we do not have the authority to modify any contract.
Well, you're getting on the road negotiating a contract, so then who does the vendor know to talk to? The mayor, individual mayors, it's a little problematic, a little risky.
But it isn't, sometimes we get into a point that all we have to do is make one modification and we can fix the problem right there.
And you can make a suggestion to the administration, and the administration say, oh, no, that's a good idea, let's do it. And that's kind of what I've seen in the past.
The thing, the thing this would do is force administrations to have a conversation earlier. What happens is we get presented contracts at the last minute, and you have to approve it right now, there's no way to delay it, because everything is on the line.
I think this came out of something like that.
Yeah.
And if there was the time to be able to go back and negotiate, then we could reject it or delay it. But we're always told, you gotta approve it right now, right now, right now. And so if we had to approve it now, we'll
Well,
say. okay,
and this
we'll
just
approve
gives us
it
the
now.
ability, doesn't mean it goes.
And also, we're just asking, we're asking the committee to discuss it.
No, we don't, it's up or down. Like-
Well, but we do have the ability, because we can say, we'll deny it if you don't change this. And then suddenly you have a bargaining position.
No, because then you're told during the meeting by an attorney.
Then you can just say no, but that's the problem, council just hasn't done that. So it's only a threat if you acquiesce to it, and that's an issue.
Is this worthy of sending it to the commission to discuss?
This one I think is just a little,
The only reason it's in it is maybe they'll come up with a better idea. I don't actually agree.
but-
Back to Charlie's argument, I think this does encroach on
Yeah.
I don't believe in strong mayor, but the
Well,
equal powers.
so should we-
I think it goes into the powers of the mayor.
Do we want to delete it? We can delete it.
yeah, this one I just don't, I
Delete?
don't, yeah.
Any objection to delete this one?
So,
Okay. So number 6, we are.
reading number 6.
Okay. New positions or salary changes above a given percentage after budget approval requires a majority of council.
This is outside of city council salary, this is department.
Yeah, this is department, and
That's
this,
fine.
this goes to the issue of how, this seems to be like the one budget line that it's incredibly difficult to control between budgets.
Yeah, because we've seen the increase in salaries
And
from the
we
last
have,
decade.
yeah, and we have no real control over it until after it happens, and then you're taking someone's.
And then it's the argument of, oh, we're not gonna get C-suite level, blah, 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 they're gonna go somewhere else, yada, yada, yada,
So what I'm hearing is this is worthy of forwarding this.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you all
But
see?
it's also just, honestly, save this one for the conversation that we're gonna have about 2027 budget, which I'm planning to bring to council. I think I already had Kelly put out a motion.
Yeah, I was just,
So I'm planning on having a conversation about 2027 budget.
We didn't bring up for new people, either did we, when we started all this?
No, but well, now we only have 3 more
Almost
left.
close,
Let's
yeah.
finish.
Okay,
But may I
I
just-
just looked over there, and go, oh, damn, we went over that room.
Just on this one, we can talk about this issue when Councilmember Hurtak sets up that discussion, but if you notice the other day, we're presented with, we had 27, I don't know which category this was, but like 27 million more in revenues for a topic, and then we had only 24 million in additional expenses, so we had 3 million left over. And the question I asked was, who authorized spending the 24 million? That was new money, who authorized spending that? And that's a much bigger issue. Like and then you add up all those departments, it's like $200 million that was authorized, and we're being presented with the crumbs saying, well, we got $3 million left over if you wanna spend that. Well, how did that 27, and then the answer is, well, you guys approved it. Yes, but nobody told us that it was new money, and then we were pulling out of new money, and the public, most importantly, the public could have had the right to get that money.
Well, and that boils down, this goes right back, I mean, it's the same kind of conversation,
Communication.
the debt, as that, even though it's technically communicated, it's really not clearly communicated, that's the
Correct.
problem. Okay, so I'm not hearing any objection to number 7. Number 8 is redundant with the other list, it just is constitutional language, I'm taking out the US Constitution. So it's basically redundant with the,
We'll take a, it's already dealt with.
yeah. Number 9, should council have the authority to override mayoral policy or executive orders with 5 or more votes?
I think it should be discussed, I don't know that I agree with it, but, nowhere in the charter does it say we have a strong mayor form of government, nowhere in the charter does it say we're part-time or full-time. I think this is well within the conversation aspect of the reason we have this commission. Because the city, the constituents and the voters of the city need to decide how they want their government to look.
Any other discussion on that?
I think maybe under certain circumstances, but again, to clarify a point a minute ago, the charter does not say strong mayor anywhere in there. All strong mayor means is the mayor does not sit in city council, that's all it means. So, and it's a generic term. So, but if you look at the balance of powers, I think we need to respect the intention of it, and there are a lot of checks and balances. Now, it might be worth having a discussion about it, but anything that severely handcuffs a mayor from making decisions, I would be against. But there are ways that we can work around it.
I look at this very similar to the United States House of Representatives, Senate, and the executive branch of government. What they've already, where the House can override vetoes, the House can, the House passes, and what the House can pass language and mandate and control budgets.
But they can't override an executive order.
Right.
So, and
So
it-
I,
a
I'm
real-
again, this would be discussion to have
Yeah,
for the
it's
commission to
A
have.
real world benign example, the issue of naming came up a few years ago, and, the administration came back and said, well, we put together a committee, and John Dingfelder tried to name something after the Lennox Senate, so the administration held it, put the committee together, came back with some recommendations from the committee, great recommendations, but the advice of the legal department was that the mayor had the right to do that without city council approval, and I argued against it, I think we argued against it, that there's nothing in the charter that says the mayor has the right to name buildings. And I went back and forth
The
with.
mayor can't override an ordinance with an executive order.
No.
So we went back and forth, and ultimately, what we decided to compromise that we worked out with Andrea was that we would codify the mayor's executive order with an ordinance.
Okay.
Now, they slipped in some language changes at the last minute that they didn't disclose, and that substantively changed it. But anyway, it was a way of working out a compromise, which is what democracy should do.
Right. But yeah, but just to be clear, yeah, an executive order doesn't override an ordinance.
But if
Ordinance is a
you,
building
but
document.
then by what you said, if there's an executive order and then we created an ordinance, that would supersede it, right?
The
Yeah.
ordinance would supersede an executive order.
yeah, but that's up for us.
Yeah.
That's an extra level and an extra layer.
Well, it
and
also
extra
codifies,
thing.
it also codifies and gunks up your ordinances.
Yeah.
But we end up creating that tit for tat thing.
Yeah, I mean,
You end up
it-
creating a gunked up ordinance, policies. You don't necessarily wanna go down that line either. Okay, well, okay, so anybody else have other ideas that weren't codified here?
Yes,
Councilwoman Garza.
One of the things that was brought up when we had I had my discussion with Mr. Creighton was, representation. The concern of population per council person, like, basically the idea is 7 enough? Should we expand? Should it be single member? Should we continue to have, citywide seats? But just representation overall, because now we're over 400,000, and that's a lot of people for each person to have 100,000, and.
My concern with, is the same but different. District, as far as demographic representation, we've traditionally had a black seat. Because District 5, as the gentrification has been hard, it's already a minority, yeah, it's no longer a majority
Yeah,
minority.
correct.
So we've lost the majority, and I think that trend is gonna continue. And the only way to kind of ensure that we have, and I don't know if it's legal, is it legal in Florida now to even discuss race when it comes to districts? I don't know. if it is. Yeah. But I think value-wise, I value that, and I think if we went to 9, we could probably ensure that we have minority representation on council.
So then the whole point was, I didn't wanna say that the idea is to discuss representation and the possibility of less population per council person, so I wanna keep it very broad. But I think that is something, I know that the county's discussing it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not looking to do what's the city that has like 40 council people?
Los Angeles.
God, I don't know how they do that.
Cleveland.
No, there's a smaller one
Is
that
there,
has.
LA is a big one. Charlotte.
Yeah, Louisville has like 36 for Louisville.
Louisville.
Just
Can
sitting
you
here,
imagine?
just here listening to the population increase and so forth, you can remedy that, and I don't know how legal is it possible, that having 4 and 3 have all 7 districts.
Well,
No-
but,
no at large.
yeah, but that's part of the question of, like, so
That's what you
do
wanna
we
do.
do that? And
I don't support that.
I don't
I'm not
either,
saying
but I
it's
think
the
it
case. I
should be
think that's
discussed.
the case.
'Cause
Yeah,
I-
wouldn't that do the same thing then? Creating 7 districts would be the same as adding 2 more and having 3, because you would have smaller districts that would be.
Yeah, but then you
But-
lose sight of those people that are, the whole picture. I
Yeah.
don't like what the county's doing right now.
Yeah, I really love being able to be somebody who sees the whole picture.
It's nice to have that balance. I think
Yeah.
whoever invented that was, I thought they would.
I'm just-
So there's two things to consider there with charter law, and we're planning for this. Y'all know we're working on renovation plans, couple of proposals. One, potentially building a new building in the Brickyard. that could house a council chamber and a police station or something over here
This is
to,
a gorgeous historic building, why would you ever
because,
take
because,
the heat
because that
power
used to
out
be a
of
historic building, that replicated
There
the
was
historic
the
building.
annex next to
Yeah.
it without the tower.
Yeah,
They
so
demolished
it would
it.
replicate what used to be here, they tore it down, which is sad, it was a beautiful building. The second thing is, moving council, taking over the entire third floor. First floor is kind of out because of the ceiling heights and ceiling heights, not even security, it's, we can
We
do.
have security.
No, we can do the security, we can resolve that, we can't resolve the ceiling heights.
Yeah.
This floor is so much smaller, and our bathrooms. The bathrooms and the ceiling heights rules on the first floor. So it's taking over the entire third floor, and to be able to, because we have to expand council chamber, we did that for sure. So that, just so you know, that's out there in the discussion. So, I mean, there are there's opportunities, I mean, there's even opportunities for TMOG for that too, but, there's things that we could do here of like expansion and replicating the old historic building here if we needed to. But there's opportunities. You know, if you ever look on the second floor here, you see the walkway that goes into nowhere, that would have gone into that other building.
And that was,
Oh.
that was a
Yeah,
nice-
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so it was actually a pretty building.
As long as the building is brutalist and matches the building.
Yes, yeah.
May God strike you, may God strike you down right in the chair right now.
Love that brutalist building,
Oh.
love it.
Oh,
Ah.
okay, Councilman Herzog.
So,
So we're capturing the expansion.
Yes.
Did you capture that, Sam?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really.
I know, we have an agreement with,
Got it.
we have an agreement with Clerk's office.
Yes, and something that was brought up, and again, I really, appreciate, Mr. Craig for this because I did not go this far back, but he's gone back several administrations, and the difference between a, maybe setting a, right now we have a chief of staff, but there used to be a chief administrative officer. I know that sort of goes toward mayor choosing staff for themselves, but the point being that there is someone and that they have responsibilities and requirements very similar to a department head. Just knowing that you have that, I don't know how I.
Isn't that what he does? Because he's kind of.
Well, but apparently it goes back and forth, and the responsibilities change, the requirements for the role changes. Right now, you could just choose someone off the street who has no actual background in any of those issues.
It seems like he's covering two roles right now, John.
Yeah, but that's what that's why he brought it up, because as the city grows and as we get larger and have to deal with so many different things. So just the idea of a chief administrative officer, to deal with the personnel and the everyday,
I'm sure he would appreciate that.
well, I mean, again, no,
Because
I think
he has his own, he's got portfolios.
well,
On top of
and
his- on top of his.
that's the whole point, and I know that sort of goes toward what how the executive here, how the mayor chooses to organize their staff, but I think it actually goes further, because he kind of had to, we really talked about this a bit, because I was like, oh, that kind of goes into what a mayor chooses in terms of their structure, but knowing going in that you have a structure, like we know we have department heads, but who's really over those different people, because the mayor is really the one that kind of oversees all those main directors. But anyway, so chief administrative officer, that's a possibility. Interim appointments. We have an issue for interim directors, but not for interim department heads. We have at least one that I know of that's been an interim department head for, I think, going on 3 years now.
Yeah. Is that within our purview then? Is that?
No, but, I mean, but the point being, yeah, how long can you have it?
We changed the charter twice to address this for the directors.
Yeah, for the directors, but not for not, I mean,
The
how
charter
long can you
revision
be
and
allowed to have an interim? We already answered, I mean, we already talked about the powers, so.
I think as you get further down into the hierarchy, you're kind of like stomping on.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, I'm just bringing these up
Yeah.
and so.
I mean, they discussed it, but it's just.
And everything else I think we've covered in other people's, but,
Yeah.
so those were
Okay.
some of the things. I appreciate the questions that you all brought forward.
Councilman Escapo, do you have anything else?
Just a quick one, you know, we move money out of the budget, for example, with tripling the paving budget, right? but then it gets approved, and is that money spent within a certain period of time? We increased the budget, but, well, we're looking at the 5-year plan, or whatever. Whereas our constituents are asking us, you control the budget, you have these hearings, you move money around, when is the money gonna be spent? And we see projects that are prioritized per the mayor, per the administration, and then things the city council wants is hit or miss, right? So, and I'm gonna use the, paving as an example. One of the biggest complaints we get is the quality of our roads. If we say, hey, we approved this budget in September, we start the fiscal year, we have X amount of millions of dollars, that money should be spent either within that fiscal year or within a fiscal year of saying, we're gonna pave these roads, we're gonna bump these projects up, because now we have the extra funding, as an example. So, to wrap it up, if city council, if we motion to allocate money for certain projects, that money needs to be spent and within a certain period of time. Now, this is a grand project that needs design and has to go through multiple processes, I get it, but if it's something as simple as increase the maintenance here, pave more of these roads, X, Y, Z, it should be done within a specific period of time.
So, before you speak, can I ask you a question so you can incorporate it into what you respond to? Would that be covered if, because I know we so okay, I'm gonna allocate $15 million to paving. Would it be within council's purview to say, I'm giving you $15 million to pave a street?
Specific streets.
Can we dictate the project and do that? I mean, Councilman Ray, you got the most experience.
I'm not saying you can't, I don't know, but if you do that, I mean, there's so many streets, we don't have enough papers to pave all the streets at one time.
Right.
You only got, what, 2 papers?
The 2 papers,
yeah,
contracts,
sure.
and then the contracts.
Yeah, we did one of the big ones, and yesterday I went to see Rita, the seamstress, and when I went down the road and I turned left, I thought my car was gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
But,
I was driving down the band.
I went so there's a lot of roads that need attention. They are trying to get done. I see some progress in West Tampa, I see some progress in South Tampa, I see progress. I don't go all over the city. But if you want to see a road that's bad, and I told them they didn't like it, but they paved 7th Avenue with bricks. Drive your car through there one time, and you tell me you drive it through it the second time.
That's a way of slowing traffic.
Terrible
Slowing
drive.
traffic.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's slow traffic.
Big time.
Well,
You can't go
it's-
25 miles an hour.
But I don't have an answer to that question.
So here, to, in more detail, if it's a matter of we only have 2 pavers, right, we allocate.
Papers and contracts. We do
Well,
solid contracts.
if city council were to, and this is just, we can do this on a broad variety of projects. If we say we're gonna allocate another $1 million for another paving machine, that allows the city to say, now we have 3, now we have more equipment, now we can speed
It's
up.
a
now we
crew,
can-
that's the paving machine and the crew. So-
Yeah, and then, however to fund it, if we approve that or allocate that amount of money, and if we use it as, neighborhood specific, not you gotta pave this road, I mean, we can do much more than that. I think we should, once we approve that funding and allocate it, that money needs to be spent on that within a certain time.
Yeah, I think that, I just don't know how to capture that in law. Because this almost seems like mobility should come to us and say, pitch us a project and we fund that project. Instead of saying pots of money, they should come to us and say, we want to fund in fiscal year at 27, we want to accomplish this and this is how much it's gonna cost.
And that's fine, they bring us their projects and say, this is the list that we have over the next 10 years. Council, we need $5 million for this, we need this, and then we allocate that money, but that project needs to be done within that timeframe.
Did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
I don't know who was first.
No, you can do it.
Go ahead.
The two real world examples are Fire Station 21.
There you go.
And well, that is Tampa Union Station.
There you go.
So Tampa Union Station, as CRA, we allocated the money like 5 years ago. The city, the administration refused to even, they gave us a kind of a bogus update in the paper this Thursday, we can talk about it, but they're making every excuse they can because it's not something they want to do. And the building is not safe. It has termites in it, and it probably has mold. It has leaks in it, and they haven't even taken.
But enough about City Hall.
Yeah, but But there's gotta be some penalty at some point, and maybe one would be that, that the money would revert back to control of city council, so after, as you were kind of leading to.
If that doesn't do any good, it doesn't accomplish the project.
It doesn't, but at least city council will be able to reallocate. What happens is then, if the administration doesn't do it, they can behind the scenes reallocate and not tell us that they did it. They'll just say, here, approve this $10 million, not telling us that they took it away from the fire station like they did last time.
So how do you capture this in the charter though?
Well, and I tend to agree with that, and that's what I was gonna say, and the answer is, you use your powers of budget, and this council just, we haven't done that before, and that's just something that we have to do. We have to be able to say, you're not gonna do that, then we're not gonna do this. And just by and large, we have not done that yet, but we have the ability, and that's why I wanna talk about the 2027 budget now, in the next couple of months, to prepare us for that, because that is what we should be doing. The city is larger, it's not, and I don't even necessarily think it's not necessarily this administration and in this city council. It's now that we're going forward, as we grow and continue to grow, and our budget has become immense, and there's so many things that we need to do, we all need to be able to find ways to, you don't wanna do this? Okay, well then I'm not gonna do that. So there has to be a a way to do tit and tat and tit for tat. We haven't done that as a council historically in at least the last 50 years. So that's my suggestion. I don't know that it can be a charter issue, but I mean, yeah.
Councilman Brandon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is a public facility? However, what's happening, when you see this road, Kennedy Boulevard South, that $3 million a year that been given away, not by this administration, not by the previous administration, but other way before, for 30 years. It ends next year or the year after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe it ends. Whoever's here is gonna have to continue to say yay or nay. That's $90 million, close to that. Let's say $70 million. I'm gonna tell you where the money went. The garage at Davis Island.
Yes.
I was involved in that under the Gregg administration when he was busy. He said, handle it how you can. And I met with the people from Templeton. And I told them, you want it? I called them, we owe $13.8 million. I told them, I sell it to you for $13.8 right now. However, there's one caveat. After 6 months, you can't collect rent. You gotta have your patients, have the visitors come in. They turn it down, it was saved. The next administration sold it. That was the only garage that was making money.
But they didn't sell it without council approval, right?
Pardon me?
They sold it with council approval.
I don't believe council approved it.
Really?
I don't believe. So now you have other things. You have $850 million that you gotta give away.
Yeah.
And that should be your money. But you're gonna have another thing coming to us, another animal, that I'm sure this council is gonna vote, and I feel positive it's gonna pass. But one vote will never vote for it. And that's gonna be another animal. And they're gonna want CRA money, 6 or 7 cents sales tax. They're gonna want everything. They want the land for free, they're gonna get it for free from the state. And that's how they're doing it. So, all this is fine, but if you do it, then you're giving it away somewhere else. Your city will never, ever be what you think you want it to be.
Councilman Mascott.
Yeah, we're obviously needed to pass the budget, and as Councilman Rovak mentioned, we haven't been there where it's, want to do this, and we're not gonna do this kind of thing, but I've been here long enough to see the priorities of Hannah, of Julian Lane, meeting deadlines. Julian Lane was for Mother's Day weekend, and Mother's Day weekend we were there, and that was a $6 million project. But you talk about Union Station, which is historical, it's significant, it needs a lot of work. That's the longer we wait, the more expensive it is, and the more it deteriorates, right? Fire stations, things of major priority in the city, and I'm sorry Councilman Vieira isn't here because he's been the champion on that, but it's, we deal with public comment. Not that the mayor doesn't. The mayor, whoever the mayor is out in the public. we have public comment, we are, I think, one of the most accessible. We get a lot of complaints, we get the emails, we get the phone calls, everybody does. But people expect us to get things done. We can't do everything, but if we, if Councilman Carlson says years ago, I'm gonna make Union Station my priority, and he's tried to, and now it's coming to fruition. Why does that have to happen that way? But a $36 million park got built just like that, right? So they need us, they need our votes, because that's how it works with us as a city council in moving the money and approving the budget or not approving the budget. But we need to have what we vote on, because we can override the view that, we have authority that needs to get done in a quicker way. And if that's a charter discussion, let the commission discuss it.
I need somebody to wrap that into a one paragraph for the charter to discuss, because I figure out how to do that. How do you capture that sentiment which is expressed here and forward it to a suggestion to the charter review commission to discuss? I don't know what that looks
That when
like.
city council allocates a certain amount of money for a specific project, that project needs to be prioritized within, if you wanna do a 12-month timeframe,
Then we only do fiscal year.
a year. Because again, these major projects, when they wanna get done, they get done within a specific time period.
Okay, so they can have the discussion and see if it fits in the charter somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. They can figure
I'm okay with that. I do one thing that you said, I wanna make this nothing discussing today, but it does have to do with public here talking about it. We talk about the growth of the budget and how huge our budget's getting, but the problem is people say that a lot, because they, you got all this budget, you must have all this money. The needs of the city have grown exponentially as well, and the lack and the cost, and also the lack of investment over the years, we're playing catch up. So even though our budget seems to be just grown to an extraordinary level, it's not like we have a whole bunch of money to spend. So, Councilman Carlson.
If you talk to the former mayors, most of them, we've dealt with most of them, but most of them said that they would pick up the phone and call city council members and that their doors open. And the one that's talking about this the most is Dick Greco. And Pam Biore was tough, but she still, as I understood it, would talk to people. And we've all talked to Sandy as well. So the thing is, if you have a mayor who has a collegial mindset, who wants to work with city council, and the door is open even if you disagree, then the charter works just fine. What happens is if you have a mayor that wants all the power or wants their way or the highway, kind of a military style system, then that's another thing. If it's like a military style system where one person is in charge, then city council can't conform to that because we're elected by the people. And so if there's some way, all of that is to say, if we have some way that if we get the wrong kind of mayor that we can kind of force negotiations, that would be better. Not to take the power away from the mayor, but just to say, look, there are certain boundaries here. You can't just say it's everything I want and only that, and I'm going to ignore everything else that the public wants. I don't know what the language is, but the context of it is that we have to, even though most of the mayors have been collaborative and good for the community, we have to anticipate mayors who want to fight city council or ignore the public's interest.
I mean, in my experience, I had an issue, even as a college student, and I spoke with her when she was mayor. I literally called and she let me right in. I don't know.
When I was a college student, we visited Martinez.
And now she called me.
Councilwoman Young.
So over the questions and just kind of listening to the conversation, you made a point earlier, Chair, is that getting bigger, so our issues are getting bigger. And what I see with these is it kind of, in a way, kind of forces, but not in a negative way, like accountability and collaboration.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing, because I think we're not all going to agree on everything, but these questions and just kind of how we're having the discussion, it allows for, to have a charter to where we are collaborating together to get things done versus it being one or the other. Now, again, I think there are some things that it just needs to be one, because then you kind of muddy the waters, but what I see is an opportunity to, like, we have no choice but to be collaborative and no choice but to be accountable, not only to each other, but to our constituents. So I'm just kind of listening and looking over the questions. And I mean, the only thing constant is change, and change is always gonna happen. And we have to adjust.
It's interesting, there's 7 of us, we all have visual experiences, like, and I would say I have a collaborative relationship with, but now, I've had exceptions. I've had some very robust conversations and have not walked out happy a few times, more than a few times, but generally, I would say on a normal business day, I have a very collaborative relationship with the administration. And the department heads, I get my fair share of blows, and I get my fair share of wins too. I think we all have in Charlotte always get somewhere. All wins.
Pardon me?
You always get what you want.
I've heard enough.
I know there's no place to tie up a horse out front. So.
I may go back to being.
Okay. I'm still working the line where everybody else is. Yeah, Councilwoman Young. You have anything you want to add to the conversation?
I was done.
You're done? Okay. Councilman Miranda? Okay. That being said, is there anything else that people want to enter in this conversation to be forwarded to the commission? Going once. Going twice.
I just wanna say that the commission themselves can also choose to talk about whatever they want, so
No,
just
we
us an hour.
No, we preface that.
Yeah, I know, but I just wanna reiterate.
We set that tone right in the beginning. This is not restricted. This was just a way for us to kick off the conversations. Okay, so Councilman Mesco?
No, I just wanted.
Yeah, so for the, so before y'all came in, we introduced a couple of members of the commission. For those that did not have an opportunity to introduce themselves, would you come to the front, please? That are on the Charter Review Commission?
Mr. Benson?
And alternates as well?
Yeah, come on up.
Joe, you may not have heard, this is not being broadcast live, but this will be archived and put on
Yeah,
YouTube.
so you
So you can stand over here so you can
Stand
just
behind Councilwoman Young and talk.
come over here so people
Yeah,
can
so
see you
the-
on camera.
Yeah, so stand behind around Councilwoman Young, right about there. When you can
And-
see yourself, you're good.
Introduce your name, your role on the Charter Review Commission, and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, good evening, Allison Hewitt, third generation resident of East Tampa. I am an alternate. Thank you for that privilege. I am a governmental and nonprofit consultant specializing in creating nonprofits that are economic development impacts to our community. I'm very active in East Tampa, grew up on MLK or Buffalo Avenue, and very excited to be a part of these discussions.
Thank you, Allison. Stephen?
I'm Stephen Benson. I'm an appointee of Councilman Maniscalco. Thank you, Councilman. Also a third generation Tampa native. I'm an urban planner by profession, and I've worked in both state and local government, including at the city of Tampa until just a couple of years ago. And I'm looking forward to contributing along with the rest of the commission.
Thank you. Anybody else back there? So for those of you who are listening to this at a later date, just know this was a public workshop for city council, and we have the public present as well. The members of the Charter Review Commission were not asked to be here, but they were welcome to be here if they wanted to, and I just wanted, this council wanted to give them an opportunity, those that were present in the room, to introduce themselves, but it's not a reflection of people that did not come, because this really wasn't for them. They will be busy for the rest of the year, doing 2 meetings a month, so we've tasked them with quite a large task. Okay, so now we have moved on to the last part of this meeting, public comment. If you are here, just speak. Everybody but Stephanie Pointer. Everybody but Stephanie Pointer is welcome to come to the front. And I think what we just did was stand back here so that you're captured on camera for the archive purpose. Start with your name, please, and you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes, I'm timing you.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Stephanie Pointer. The first was 2.02, qualification to run for city office. Mean that they have to be a resident for a year before taking office. It needs to be before they run for office, before they file. I mean, we've had so many people run for council who don't even live in the city, and we've got somebody now who's talking about running for mayor who does not live in the city. Let's see, I think having a general aid is a great idea. I have called other city councils or emailed other city councils and had instantaneous responses from their lead person. I don't know what you would call them. In different cities, they have different things. CRA staff should not be reporting to the mayor. They should be reporting to city council, just like all your legislative aides do. If they are supposed to follow your directions, then they should be reporting to you. I don't know why you can do it for legislative aides, but not for CRA if you guys are the CRA board. And as Florida law allows, I don't know if this is the right place for it, billing, invoicing, and other charges for city services should cover our cost. And that should be put in place. We had services just in the last month that haven't been raised since I was 18 years old. And that was a mayoral decision, and another mayoral decision, and another mayoral decision. We cannot continue to run the city in a deficit. So, those are my recommendations. Thank you.
Wow, 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Don't worry, she'll ask her for a minute, 0.5 tomorrow.
Yeah, we're not adding that to it. Anybody else from the public who wishes to speak to these issues? That's it? Yeah, come on. Start with your name, please.
Yeah, I'm speaking as Ashley Morrow. I do support the deadline conversation. I feel like I keep hearing the word slow roll. And if a deadline is not met, I feel like if we start talking about some type of consequences, maybe 10% is taken off of your bill, or taken off the amount, then maybe that'll light a fire. Whatever's gonna light the fire, I feel like that's what should start. That's what should start the ball rolling. That's gonna start the ball rolling with getting some things done in our communities. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Okay.
So if it's not done, we'll take 10% off the mayor's pay.
That is not what she said.
As we
Start with your name, please.
Allison Hewitt. As we had recently, the charter, we had to have a special election. I believe that we should potentially address not having a seat empty during the budget season, and to have an alternate option to make sure that a district is not represented during that, because if they come in after the budget's done, then you just have to adhere to whatever the administration does. And so there should be, just like there is to do the redistricting, there's a 5%, once the population hits this amount, then we have to redistrict. Well, it should be also maybe a touchstone that says if it's going to be during the budget season, then the council can appoint a temporary interim representative to be able to make sure that that district is represented through the most important time, which is the creation of the budget.
Thank you.
That actually, I'm a little surprised that Ms. Pointer did not talk about that, because that was your question for quite some time.
We can't.
Oh, okay, well then, I can verify.
Anybody else in the public wishes to speak? Hearing none. If there's any other new business, anybody else want to speak about anything else before we join? Councilman Scott.
I just want to thank the board members. You could have said no, and this is a lot of work, and I thank all of you for stepping up. I appreciate we have I think it's a wonderful commission, especially Mr. Stephen Benson. Great choice.
I want to thank all the council members that did not put Stephanie Pointer on.
Hey, she got her hands full with the button.
You know, I kid Stephanie Pointer because she knows I love her. You know, I want to make sure that people understand that the prior Charter Review Commission set out a new territory, and they did this, and they've handed us a roadmap for this process. This is not a pro-council agenda. This is not a pro-mayor agenda. It's not an anti-mayor. It's not an anti-council. This is just discussion to try to look at rules that maybe could clear things up, provide better guidance for future mayors. Most of the people that will live under this will not be us. There'll be other people sitting in these seats that will be living by these guidelines. It won't be anybody sitting in this room. I think that don't look for hidden agendas. Look for we're trying to improve a process, improve a form of government as the city grows, the city explodes, and that we've observed problems in the past and trying to find a solution. Some of this discussion may not be the solution. Hopefully, this commission will be able to sit down. That's why we've given them a lot of time. We've given them a lot of meeting time. We've put a lot of responsibility on them to be able to really flush these items out. So we're looking for them to be able to bring that in. And for those of you who have looked at this commission, I think this council's done a wonderful job, and the mayor's done a wonderful job of putting consequential people. We've got a lot of really good people on this thing, that are smart people that are gonna be able, especially with the absence of Stephanie Pointer, they're gonna be able to have a really good product. But, I wouldn't say that if I didn't feel that way. No. Okay, anybody else? Anything else?
Can I just add to what else saying? This is our process. The mayor also has appointees. The mayor and her people have the right to talk to any of our appointees. I have not, my appointees are former Florida Bar president. There's no way I can control him if I wanted to. So he's gonna make his own decisions. If anybody wants to lobby him, there, anyone in the community or the mayor's office, they can lobby and they can push whatever they want. And then ultimately, even
We're looking for the best product.
Yeah, the last one, a couple times ago, the mayor through her PAC even ran ads against it, and all but one of them passed anyway. So there's all kinds of opportunity for people to weigh in, but ultimately the public will decide.
Here, you have the pens, but I'll steal it. Okay, very good. Well, hearing nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
Can I
I'm
just
sorry.
make a clear, to make
This
sure
meeting is
that,
not adjourned. I call this meeting back in order.
just clear for the record, I just want to make sure that this is correct. We're transmitting the following questions to Charter Review. Carlson's list items 1 through 11.
Well, I think what we're gonna do is, Sam has captured some of the stuff
Okay.
we had an agreement ahead of time that we'd work with you guys to make sure the language is correct.
Okay.
We'll clear it back through council before that is done.
Got it.
So we have a
Thank you.
final list that will be redistributed to council so that everybody has a clear understanding of what is being transmitted. Because we knew this was gonna be a little bit more of a haphazard workshop, so that's why I had Sam taking those two to prepare and transmit.
Got it. Thank you.
And I don't know, maybe that was, I don't know who that was through, but I know Marty worked out that agreement.
Okay.
Okay, council, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.